We're buying a new home. Are you just as excited as I am? Now, the question is, are we going to buy a singular family home with lots of space and even a possible spare room that we could rent out to other people? Or should we buy a duplex so that we can live in one of the units, me and my family of course, and of course the other unit I could rent out to other people? Now, that's a very interesting question, and that's what this video is going to be about. Now, in this video today, I'll be going through the 3 pieces of advice that you should keep an eye out for the moment you're going to make a choice and a final decision like I am going to do today. But before we go into the video today, I would like to thank Kelechi for asking this question today. As you know, just because you are asking these questions, I can come up with great content to share with you. And of course, if you like the content that I share on my channel, you'll most likely like Kelechi's channel as well, as he talks about personal finance and he has his own ideas and opinion about it, which is a great idea. And he's got a cool podcast channel as well, so be sure to check out his channel. And I'll tell you this, he's got a great voice to listen to. Yes, I can't do the great raw voice, but you get the idea. Okay, for now, let's get into the video. Hey, what's up you guys? Lukas here from excelwealth.com. Great that you're joining today, because in today's video, I'll be going through with you what you should do with the spare rooms that you have in your home. The moment you have a singular family home, what should you do with the room, or what should you do with a duplex? Well, that kind of makes sense already. We don't really have to go through that, right? In today's video, I'll go through the 3 advices that you should keep an eye out for the moment you're gonna buy a new home. But before we go into the video, be sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't done that so, because that's the way how we can grow our community together. Oh yeah, and if you haven't checked out my latest book yet, be sure to click the link down below in the description so that you can get your own copy on my book. Currently, the ebook is even on special offer. So if you want to check that out, it's going to be cool. And it's a way to support the channel and support me as well. Because I started investing in my teens with only $25 in my pocket. And currently, I'm investing in real estate through investing on the stock market. So yeah, it's a great way to get started, and read it here in my book. Okay, let's get into the video. Now, the first piece of advice that I want to go through with you is you always have to position yourself first. Where do you stand in life right now? What is your current position? If you haven't taken a look at that, then it's really hard to say, you know what? We're going to buy a singular family home, or something like a duplex might be a great idea. Because, you know, if you don't know what the position that you are taking in life right now, currently, for example, like if you're not married yet, if you don't have a life partner, then the choices are going to be completely different. What would you do with a whole singular family home if you're not married and you haven't got anything yet? So you have to check your position first. What is your position? Are you married? Do you have any kids? What kind of a job do you have? Do you have a stable job? Do you have a certain income? Do you have savings? It's very important. The very first step is to check what your position is. Now, I'm not asking for like, do you have like $40,000 on your savings account? If not, stop the video. It's not going to be like that. So I'm not asking for that. So it's just like, you got to check your current position. Where do you stand? What do you have in life? Who do you have to take care of? Who do you have to pay? What are your expenses? What is your income? You got to position yourself first. That is the very first advice. Because based on that, you can make the next choice. And that is, of course, advice number 2. Now, advice number 2 is, of course, we're going to take a look at the price of the property and, of course, the mortgage that you can get. In the end, we're talking about money, right? So the moment you know you have a certain stable income, you can also tell how much mortgage you can get. Buying a home to live in for yourself, you know, that's good. You can get a lot of mortgage on that. And currently the interest rates are not that high. So yes, you could get a lot of money then from the bank. But the thing is this, you always have to put down a little bit of down payment no matter what you're buying. So you have to keep that in mind. The moment we take a look at the prices of certain homes, now, yes, different states and different places have different prices. And yes, the size of the homes also have different prices. But when we take a look at the average size of a singular family home, and when we compare that to an average size duplex, then yes, it seems it's cheaper, because an average singular family home is somewhat around $350,000. Now, I don't know about your country. Put it down below in the comments what country you're from. I'm from the Netherlands, and if you want to buy a singular home, on average, it's about $350,000. Yes, well, in our case, it's euros then, okay? And when you take a look at a duplex, The price of a duplex is fairly cheaper. Normally, on average, is about 250,000 euros. Now you might be thinking, that is actually cheaper. So if I could buy a duplex of 250,000, it's actually cheaper than a singular family home. And yes, that makes sense. But then again, you're only buying one unit of the duplex. So if you want to buy both, you got to pay $500,000. Yes, it's a little bit more. The moment you can buy the complete complex, the whole duplex, then yes, in the end, it's going to be a better deal because you can actually rent out the other unit. So yeah, that's a better deal. But in the end, if your mortgage can't handle that, if your mortgage can't handle, for example, like a whole duplex, if you can't take a mortgage for $500,000, then the whole idea of this video disappears because you can only get a singular family home. But then again, you can still watch the video for the singular family home tips that I'm going to give you in the next step. Advice number 3, we're going to talk about the advantages. Now, what are the advantages for each of the two properties? When we take a look at singular family homes, we have several options that I would like to go through with you. Now, in the case of a singular family home, we actually see it like this, okay? You've got a spare room. You've got one room to spare. You know, you've got a great home. You got your own space, but yet you've got a spare room. Now, what could you do with that spare room? Now, the first thing is, it's very easy. You rent it out to a lodger, somebody who's actually looking for a place to stay and then, you know, work from that location as well. You know, that person could be living in your home and then actually becomes like an extra family member, which is a great thing, right? But this person is actually paying somewhat like $100 per week for staying in that room, and it's actually sharing your kitchen as well and sharing a bathroom maybe. So yes, this is actually just a lodger, somebody who's staying for long term in your place in that room, and that room is that person's private domain. Yeah, and then the rest of the home is actually shared with that family. Now, option number 2 is that, for example, you're taking somebody in like an international student. For example, this student is staying over for at least like a year or maybe 2 or maybe even 4 years, you know, during their whole college degree when they're actually there, like, hey, gotta study and gotta stay somewhere. And yet again, you know, they're paying like somewhere like $100 per week or so. So it's not super much, but hey, they're only taking in the space of one room, right? So can't really charge more than that. And it's actually cool to have an international person in your family home as well. It's like, hey, it's like Yuki from Japan or something like that, right? Now, option number 3 is renting out as an Airbnb room. You know, I like this option because I also do this myself. If your location of your singular family home is in a great location and a great place and you have tourists coming along, why not just rent this room out as an Airbnb room? You know, you give them the option like, okay, you can stay in your own private room, but we're sharing the bathroom and the kitchen and the living room together. This way, it's very cool to meet lots of different kinds of people. You are in control of who you want to take in as your person, you know, who's gonna live in that room for just a few days maybe. This is the cool part. You can select and you can control the situation. Now, I'll tell you this, the prices of Airbnb are slightly higher, and that's also interesting. Whereas you're charging maybe $100 for a lodger for a whole week, for an Airbnb person, you could say like, you know what, for one person, I'm charging like $30 per night. And if you take a second person in, you can maybe even charge like $50 per night. And that makes it far more interesting. But yes, the downside is, of course, you have to control everything yourself. And of course, somebody's got to keep the room clean. And of course, you know, you get a lot of all kinds of people around you in your house. And if you like that, sure. It could be days that the room is empty so that nobody lives in the room. And then, yes, therefore, you can ask slightly more for the days that they are occupied. But, you know, if they're not occupied, you can't charge any money, right? So it's actually a different choice that you would actually can choose and you actually like. Now, option number 4, this is something that I've done myself as well, is you can actually rent it out as storage space. Now, it sounds very silly, maybe you think, because, you know, you're actually renting out your room. And if the room is just empty or if the room is not being used, why not rent it out as storage space? And yes, this way you don't really have somebody like a stranger walking around in your home every time. You don't have to share your kitchen or you don't have to share your bathroom with this person. But renting it out as a storage room, all of a sudden, for example, like people who just want to store, for example, all their camera equipment. Now, you don't see my lights and the camera equipment that I have, but I got a ton here. Now, it's easy to store it somewhere when you're not using it. And yes, renting out a room for storage room, you can't charge that much as like $100 per week. You can't do that. But hey, you could say like, you know what? Let's just make it like $50 a week. It's less than that. But hey, instead of leaving your room empty, you can actually rent it out to people who pay for the electricity bill, right? That's a lot easier already. And option number 5 is a silly one, I would say, but then again, it is possible. You could rent the room out as a little bit of office space, either to yourself, I use this as an office myself here, or you can actually rent it out to somebody else who says, you know what, I need a little bit of office space. I want to have my private area, where I can do my work. And if I need a cup of coffee, I just ran downstairs and actually have a cup of coffee in your kitchen. You could do that as well. I don't know about your country, but in the Netherlands, renting out your own bedroom as an office space to somebody else, I don't really see it very often, but it is possible, right? And now let's go into the options for the duplex. Now the duplex, I actually in general would say we've got 2 options. The first option is, of course, you rent it out to a family who become tenants because you don't really live together with them. So they become a tenant. So you actually find people who live in the actual unit. So you live in the one unit and the other family lives in the other unit. Hey, it's a great way. It's a great passive way to make some income. And you don't really have to interfere with their lives all the time, and you don't have to put their toilet seat up every time they go to the toilet. And then you think, hey, you didn't put the toilet seat down. So yeah, that's an option. The second option of the duplex is, of course, you're going to rent it out as an Airbnb. But you got to take a look at this. The moment you're going to rent it out as an Airbnb, somebody's going to do the management of the property itself. So you got to have somebody who manages the building. And of course, somebody's got to manage Airbnb as well. And remember, Airbnb also charges fees upon each reservation they make. So if you're in great location, good. You're renting out a whole duplex to other people. And for a whole duplex to other people, you could easily charge like $100 or maybe $200 per night for the whole property. Of course, we're not asking you can't ask like $200 per person on Airbnb. Well, you can charge slightly extra. Well, this duplex is actually meant for 4 people and you're taking in 6. You can stay there with 6 people, but you got to charge extra for those number 5 and number 6 person. But Airbnb, it's a great way. If you're in a great location, you can take some people in. You're helping them out and they're helping you out because, the rent is slightly higher compared to the moment when they're a tenant. But then again, a tenant is most likely living there at least for a year, whereas an Airbnb person, they most likely stay a week or so and then, they just hang around, be a tourist in that place where you live and then enjoy the surroundings. And since you stayed until the end, I actually want to share with you the bonus question. What is a real good investment in this case? Should you buy the singular family home and rent out a room, or should you be buying the duplex and renting out the other unit? Now, it really depends, like I said in the beginning, in what situation you're in. And of course, how much mortgage you can get from the bank. The price of the duplex in the end is slightly higher compared to the singular family home. But then again, hey, if we're talking about an investment and if you can make the extra investment of $150,000 to be able to buy a duplex of $500,000, then yes, buying the duplex is a great idea. Why? You have your own property and you have your own private space and it's a lot easier. You don't really have to mingle with their lives. Whereas, I'll tell you this, I've done both situations. I've lived in a duplex, renting out the other unit. It was a great way to make money as well. But, we moved away and we bought a bigger home that we could live in as a family in ourselves. And we don't have to, interfere with other people. But having a singular home is great as well. I've lived abroad for many, many years as well. And I've lived with different families. I've interacted with so many different kinds of people. It's a great way to increase your world because, I love taking in international students because they have a very specific goal. They just need a place to stay. And sometimes staying with a family who have kids is actually a great idea. They have their own room, but if they want to interact with a whole family who just lives here in the neighborhood, it's a great way to get them to know as well. And the moment they take over friends, hey, it's cool to meet other people as well. So my advice would be, it really depends on what situation you're in your life. If it really is that you think, well, you know what, we love traveling, we love meeting new people, then yes, buying a singular home and then, taking in lots of other people is a cool way to meet new people. In a way, they become part of your family as well. And yes, that is the coolest part of my life, meeting new people. But yes, so it really depends what situation you're in and what your wishes are. In the end, if you think, I'm going to do this for an investment, always keep track of the expenses next to the income. That is very important. I always say you always have to take a look at the financial gains next to the things that you have to give up for to get those financial gains. So it's very important to know, hey, what am I doing this for? And that is what I wanted to share with you today. I thank you very much for watching today's video. If you liked the video, be sure to smash that like button because, that'll influence YouTube's algorithm. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to click that subscribe button. And of course, every time you want to be notified, a new video comes out, be sure to click that notification bell as well, because then YouTube will tell you, hey, Lucas got a new video again, ready for you to click on. And of course, if you haven't checked out my latest book yet, be sure to click the link down below to get your own copy and actually read how I started in my life investing and then later on investing in real estate. I thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Happy investing and bye-bye.